Welcome to yet another episode of Thursday Thought Leaders. My guest today is Ms. Bhawna Sikka, who's a category head of oral healthcare at Haleon, a company that was previously known as GSK Consumer Healthcare. She is a sales and marketing professional with over 17 years of experience leading to high performance teams and driving growth for market in FMCG domain. Let's speak to her about her vision for Sensodyne, how big the market opportunity is, and also to understand if the role of women as marketing professionals has changed in the last 17 years of her experience. Welcome, Bhawna, to BW Healthcare World. Bhawna, let me begin with my first question asking you, that's you're managing Sensodyne, and Sensodyne is a brand which is a little over a decade old. And what do you think has changed in the industry since 2011 when you launched this brand? And how has the industry emerged, keeping in mind that there are many players in this space trying to do the same category in a different way?
Well, thank you, Harbinder. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to talk about the brand and the work that we do. So, if we look at the last decade, things have changed overall. Just the environment we all operate in has changed overall, and so therefore, overall, in the scheme of overall changes, oral health also is something which has evolved. People's understanding of oral health has evolved. What they expect from it has evolved. So maybe about 10 years ago or 11 years ago, when Sensodyne entered the market, a large part of the oral health conversation was around the topics of cavities or maybe freshness. To now people realizing there are other facets to it. We spoke about sensitivity. We tried what we could in terms of building awareness around that, building condition, education and relevance of what you need to do. So I think people have evolved. They've realized there are many different oral health needs. And then the industries had to keep pace with that. Within the toothpaste category, it's not unidimensional anymore. You see a lot of different toothpaste offering you a lot of different benefits. So that's happened. I think also people have realized the importance of products or things outside of toothpaste. So even within toothbrushes, for example, you see a lot of evolution. Data tells us that some of the fastest growing segments within toothbrushes are the soft and the super soft category. So people have gotten to know that hard brushing can have consequences. You should not do hard brushing, and why soft bristles. This is incidentally also where bulk of our sort of toothbrushes are there. Mouthwashes as a category, we're seeing it's gaining traction. So I think overall, in terms of people becoming a little bit more discerning, a little bit more demanding in terms of how they want to take care of their health has evolved. Again, one of the interesting data points that I do want to share with you is data tells us in a lot of households, increasingly, there is a wide repertoire uses. So people are not sticking to one toothpaste. I think maybe when you and I probably were growing up, there was one toothpaste that mom got, and that was the only toothpaste that everybody used. Now, in many households, on an average, 4 different toothpastes are getting used within a year. So people are trying a lot of different things to figure out what works for them, what best addresses their needs. So really, I think people are taking a whole lot more charge and a whole lot more interest in terms of what's oral health and how they want to take care of it.
So, Bhawna, how big is this industry? How big is the oral care market in the country today?
See, overall, quite big. If you think about it, toothpaste brand is probably one of the number one product brands that you interact with every day. You wake up and you do it. I think because it's become almost muscle memory and an autopilot in the morning, so people maybe don't give it an active thought, but literally one of the first packaged products that you interact with every day is a toothpaste. So it is a very big category. I think Nielsen pegs it somewhere between 1.5 billion to $2 billion. This is toothpaste, toothbrushes, mouthwashes, everything combined. But of course, toothpaste kind of dominates in terms of the 2 billion size.
And tell me one thing, Bhawna, Sensodyne created the concept of sensitivity, and this was relatively followed by other brands. How do you think Sensodyne as a brand has created a niche in this domain? And is this under threat by other players who've jumped into talking about this as a concept?
So, Harbinder, actually, for us as an organization at Haleon, And for those of us, including myself, who are managing the brand right now at Sensodyne, I think the way we operate, the starting point for all our work is about knowing our consumers intimately. So actually 2 points in terms of what we did in the starting point for us. When we did our research, we realized sensitivity is actually not niche. 2 out of 5 Indians suffer from sensitivity. So that's a very prominent, prevalent problem, right? And it needed to be addressed, and which is where kind of we stepped in, and we also, I think, coming to understanding consumers, we also realized food is such a pocket of joy for all of us on an everyday basis, right? So when you bite into that ice cream, or when you have that sip of cold water on a hot summer day, which is most of the days in India, right? And you have that sharp shooting pain, that sensation, which people call it jhanjanat or shir or whatever. It's such a felt physical experience that it needed addressing. So when we came and spoke about it, and you heard Sensodyne talk about it, you finally had a name, right? And people saw our advertising and they said, oh yeah, that what they show, that's what happens to me. So it is called tooth sensitivity, right? So we built education and awareness around the condition, that this is sensitivity, and that you don't need to be wary of that which you want to eat or drink, right? And so the product, when you used it, and made such a difference to the quality of your life in terms of you being able to eat and drink what you wanted, that then got us the consumer trust and actually made us one of the top 5 toothpaste brands within a decade. So I think we take a lot of pride in being able to understand what people needed, and also to be able to make that impact in their everyday life.
Bhavna, I want to ask you a very important question. In my opinion, I interview a lot of people, I speak to a lot of healthcare professionals, and we realize that the government has a very important role to play in terms of creating awareness on various health conditions. Now, managing teeth and oral hygiene, oral care has been more of a consumer-driven kind of approach. And it has been, when we look at even the marketing, it is more like, focusing on taste, focusing on, the aspiration of looking good, grooming, etc. Is there a role that the government can play in terms of creating awareness for oral hygiene and managing your oral care? And if it is, what do you think can be the role of the government?
Thank you for asking that. And I think, I'm going to ask you to allow me to be like a little indulgent and go a little bit in detail on this one, because this is something we feel really, really kind of strongly about in terms of what all can be done in terms of creating that awareness and education piece around it. I think everyone has a responsibility. All brands, those of us who have the means to and the platform to create awareness, we need to do our bit. For us as Sensodyne, again, last month itself, we ran a campaign called Be Sensitive to Oral Health, which was on the eve of World Oral Health Day, which was last month. Number of things were done, again, in terms of creating education, like you said, creating awareness around what different oral health problems are, and to take the conversation, again, I'll borrow your words, to take it beyond aesthetic, to take it beyond aesthetic, to say underlying inherent health of your mouth, of your teeth. What can you do, right? So we conducted dental camps across. Your wife would probably also tell you, since she's a dentist, that a lot of people in this country do not go for proactive dental checkups. People usually seek out a dentist when the problem has become like cannot now be managed, right? So a lot of dentists rue the fact that people come when things have gone kind of beyond repair. So our endeavor was to create education and then build access, making sure we can take you to the doctor for that proactive checkup, so you know what your problems are. So we tied up with 100 dental colleges. We conducted like some 5,000 dental camps. We also tied up with Practo in top 20 cities, and we spoke to the consumers and we said, here, let us take you to a dentist for a proactive dental health checkup. Now, as part of all the things we did, we also participated in a number of conclaves with IDA and the Ministry of Health. There, in fact, government is actually doing a lot. Government is doing that which only government can. So we heard Dr. Swasti Charan, who's from the Ministry of Health, talk about, I think, 4 centers of excellence that the government has set up to do research, to find out what are the different dental issues that are there, what is the magnitude of the problem, and therefore what is the right way to solve for it. to give full credit to the government, when they're setting up the center of excellence, they are even carving out separate space and center of excellence for women and child health, giving credit to the fact that it may vary by gender, it may vary by age. So a lot of, the premier government institutes, whether it is AIIMS in Delhi or PGI Chandigarh, government has set up center of excellence there. They are also taking the initiatives that they are taking to make sure there is access to dental health through community centers and all the way up to district level. So they are doing a lot. They are actually doing a lot. And when I said that they are doing that which only they can, it is things like, for the first time, the government has now mounted specific studies to collect data on oral health. Now, NFHS gives you a lot of data on general health parameters. It gives you data on malnutrition, micronutrient deficiencies, but there is nearly nothing on dental health. So when they do this at the scale at which government can, I think everybody gets to know what kind of problems, what is the veracity of the problems, and then there can be government initiatives, and we can step in to say, okay, how can we make a difference? Where is it that we can solve for things? Even IDA, I think, is doing a lot, and we are again collaborating with IDA as part of World Oral Health Observatory to say what are the different problems that we are seeing, what could be the solutions, how do we come in and participate there. I think from all the government officials who I heard speak last month, I think one of the things that they're really focusing on also is how do we make a lot of the dental materials which are used in treatment and equipment in India. I think if I remember correctly, Mr. Love Agarwal, who's again from the Ministry of Health, one of the things that he quoted was that 90% of what gets used in dental practice is still imported, which is what makes the cost very prohibitive, which is what makes the access a little bit difficult. So I think all of those things that the government is doing is very unique to the government, and I think there is a lot that is being done there.
And when you talk about the government and this sudden focus about Ayush, and is there a push towards moving towards Ayurvedic toothpaste when it comes to a brand like Sensodyne?
I think, Harbinder, one of the keys to our successes as a brand is we know our consumers intimately, and we also know ourselves and our strengths really well. We believe in bringing the best of products to the consumers, and whatever then that entails. If the best science is represented in a particular way, then that is what the products will speak to. Ayurveda is rich in terms of what it offers from a therapeutic standpoint and from a well-being standpoint. I think as and when it will come to something which will seem like we can take it on, we will definitely be open to it. But as of now on Sensodyne, I think we're very focused in terms of what is it that can help you with your sensitivity and what will be the best way for us to bring it to you.
Awesome. And, when you're talking about creating awareness, when you, as a brand, as well as what is the expectation from the government, what about tier 2, tier 3 cities or the interiors of the country? What is your approach as Sensodyne for these markets? Is it something of interest? Are you trying to reach out to them?
So again, I think two parts. Building access to dental health is paramount, and that is of interest. And again, WHO tells us that in India, if I remember the numbers accurately, there is 1.6 dentists to every 10,000 people, right? And it's dramatically under versus even markets like China, where there are about 4 dentists for every 10,000 people in the population, right? So it is about building access, and access actually, while intuitively one would go and say grassroots level, but access is not there even to the economically weaker in the top tier cities. So I think our approach is more, how do we build greater access, as an organization and as a brand? So 2 parts to it. One is how do we take it to people, and how do we get in more? Can we enable more dentists? Because if you solve for the ratios of access, then also you are solving for access. So one of the things that we do as an organization, as Haleon, we have dental health checkup vans, which are stationed in economically weaker areas of the cities. And that's an all year round initiative to try and again give proactive dental health checkups so people know there is awareness. And I think we aim to roughly cater to about anywhere between 50 to 70,000 people annually. So that's our commitment on an ongoing basis. Now to the second part, that how do we build access by making sure there are just fundamentally more dentists? There again, we have tied up with IDA, and we give out about 143 dental scholarships every year to kids who are from economically weaker sections and who want to pursue dentistry. It is expensive to pursue science, as we know. So we give them a scholarship of about 100,000 Indian rupees through the course of their education in collaboration with dentists. So I think we're trying to do it both ways, get in more practitioners and get in more people to these practitioners.
Lovely. I think that's a very beautiful initiative to bring healthcare to those who need it, and bring also healthcare providers to where it is needed. Bhavna, let me ask you a little bit about the marketing aspect, because you're a marketer. Uh, I've seen that in the past, Sensodyne and other brands as well have used dentists to promote their toothpaste, etc., whether it is in media or in reality. With today's change scenario, where you have influencers and largely on social media, are you using influencers to reach out to people both in the metropolitan cities as well as the interiors?
See, Harbinder, we reach out to dentists as well. We have a field force which meets with about 30,000 dentists, right? And it is very important because ultimately oral health problems beyond a point cannot be self-addressed. You have to go to a doctor to identify what is the root cause and to then address it, in a professional manner. So we do go to doctors. We, of course, talk about the science of our products, but we also take to them from across the world what is the latest and the greatest from a dentistry perspective. So we do that, and we are very committed to that, because dentists add a lot in terms of just improving the outcomes, when it comes to problems. So we do that, and we are going to continue to do that. In terms of influencers have had their own role to play, especially in the last couple of years, in terms of building greater awareness or just shining the light on a certain subject and saying, hey, you need to take care of it. We, in fact, took on, again, as part of Be Sensitive to Oral Health campaign last month on World Oral Health Day, we collaborated with 7 influencers who are in the field of fitness and health, to whom people go to talk about either nutrition tips or health tips. And we did use their platform and their voice to say, overall health is incomplete without oral health, right? Or the oral health is the gateway to overall health. So we have taken that medium because it is important. A lot in the younger generation are, seeking them out for either understanding their own issues or even for validation in terms of what is then the right thing to do. So yeah, absolutely. On Sensodyne, we are very mindful of where the consumers are and what will be the best avenue to interact with them. Digital is one. Within digital, via influencers, it's a very important conduit to have to talk about different oral health conditions, to build overall education. So absolutely, we are doing that.
How big is Sensodyne as a brand in terms of the numbers in India?
We are privately held, so let me think of the appropriate way of answering that. I think Nielsen would peg us somewhere between 1,000 to 1,400 crore.
Lovely. Awesome. And what is your vision for Sensodyne and for the industry? What is it that we can see through your lens for the next 3 years, 4 years, 5 years?
See, for us at Sensodyne, truly our vision is to improve the quality of people's life by making sure that what is preventable from an oral health point of view is prevented. So we do want to make this a conversation. Like I said, the travesty with oral health is, while it may be the first thing you do every morning, you don't really think about it. I think over the years, a lot has been done to bring greater awareness on issues like heart health, issues like diabetes, but still not enough is discussed when it comes to oral health. And if you think about it, like the entry of nutrition to your body is through your mouth, right? So which is why when you will see with older grandparents or parents, a lot of times when they end up using dentures, right, they end up compromising on what they cannot eat, and gradually you can almost see the deterioration from a nutritional standpoint and therefore from a health standpoint. So actually it is pivotal to take care of your mouth. It is pivotal to take care of your oral health. So that's kind of what we are trying to shine the light on, that from an overall oral health perspective, people understand their conditions, people address their conditions, and we enable in the addressing of those conditions, whether it is with Sensodyne or whether it is with parodontax, which addresses some of the gum health issues, but we are there with the most meaningful and scientific products.
So, Bhavna, my conversation on Thursday Thought Leaders would be incomplete without knowing Bhavna as a person. You know, so you've spent about 17 years in the industry as a marketeer. I want to understand, as a woman professional, have things changed from the time 17 years ago when you entered the industry to today, where you sit and you're leading a category? Are there challenges that you faced? And if you faced any challenges, how did you overcome these speed bumps? And what do you see today which is different from what you saw 17 years ago?
There are so many questions, Harbinder, and there's just one question. I will try and see how can I answer.
You can take your time to answer this question, but this is really important.
A lot has changed for the better in the last 17 years. A lot has changed. So I started out as a management trainee at Nestle, and the first 1 year is traineeship sales, in which you go to order booking, outdoor outlet to outlet. And I remember that was a time when I would go as part of my training. There was a lot of shopkeepers who, out of concern, would say, "Gudiya, kitni padhi likhi ho? You know, why are you doing this job? Like, why are you in sales? Why are you doing this?" From there to a general overall acceptance to seeing more number of women in all streams. I think there is greater participation of women in field force and sales force across organizations, across all the different levels. Is it where it should be? Probably not, but you definitely see more women generally around, and that's very empowering, in and by itself. What it does is it gives the newer generation that comes a bigger voice, because they know they will be heard. My boss is a female leader again, right? So for many years I only had male bosses. For the last 2 years I've had a female boss, and that makes a lot of difference, because you can talk about your life stage, your career, your aspirations in a very different way when you know the underlying empathy will come from muscle memory, right? So that kind of makes a lot of difference. I think most organizations have also made very genuine, heartfelt, authentic steps also to make sure that they are helping women make things work. And so I have that privilege as well. I have 2 young children, and anyone who has a toddler knows this, how frequently they fall sick, right? So just that whole work-life integration, it does take compassion and empathy from those around you for you to be able to make it work. So it is there, available very generously and in dollops at Haleon, right? So I think a lot of organizations are taking those initiatives. When I was at Nestle, there was a breastfeeding room in the office, and I exclusively breastfed both my kids, but at that time my firstborn. So that facility being there really enabled me as a new mom. There is a breastfeeding room in the current organization as well. These things were not there when I started out. So all of this has come up in the last couple of years, and it really gives people like me the confidence to say you can make it work. Life is not an either or. You can make it work with and. I want to have this and this and this. So I think that's the change.
Lovely. And Bhavna, you feel that today we have a more equitable work environment, which is more inclusive, because one is providing facilities at work, like you speaking about breastfeeding rooms, but the real equitable environment would be where, when picking up a person for the role, the gender does not even come into your mind. Do you think that is a reality today in most work environments, especially the kind of organizations that you represent?
The intention to do it is very real, that there should be an equitable environment. The intent is real. The intent is very authentic. Can I hand on heart say 100% of it is done at 100% of levels? That would be a lie. But the fact that there is a very genuine and real intent to make it happen. I think that's a very promising thing in and by itself, because then you're seeing it come in as an evolution, slowly, steadily, but surely come in terms of number of women you see on the floor, number of women you see at all levels, like I said, even in sales. So I think that is happening. But at the end of the day, I think one has to realize that people make up for organizations, right? And it will take time for there to be equal understanding and appreciation of what the concerns are. I think most good organizations do a very good job of valorizing the cause of representation. And at Haleon, I mean, I can thump the table and say representation, not just in terms of gender. The organization takes a lot of pain and effort to say representation of all kinds, whether it comes to LGBTQ, whether it comes to, you being differently abled, everything it's cognized for. And the organization then tries to give you the opportunity which will be right for you to enable a career. So I think that is happening for sure.
Lovely. Bhavna, one more question that comes to my mind, and that stems from the fact that you, in one of the answers, you mentioned that you have a field force which is meeting about 30,000 dentists, right? And tell me one thing, with today's change scenario where, technology is coming in and bringing and building efficiencies in how we do business, do you think that you need so many feet on the street? Is the connect of physically in-person meeting doctors still important, or is technology building some kind of an efficiency in that process?
Is physically meeting doctors important? The one word answer is yes. Is technology bringing advancement and bringing in efficiency? Also, yes. It is maybe helping us meet them more often, because not every time is physical. You can do webinars, you can take science and data and broadcast this to a whole lot more people. So we meet 30,000 dentists in person, but overall we meet 50,000 dentists, right? And that is enabled by technology. But I think, Harbinder, what is very important to understand is we put doctors on a pedestal, but doctors also human at the end of the day, right? There is also one need for interaction. There is also a need at their end from a knowledge, understanding, and skill set updation perspective, right? So we do attempt to take the best of science, best of what is there from the field of dentistry, get some global KOLs here who can then talk about their practice, and those things in terms of just them then feeling when you're meeting me, you're adding some value to me. And I think that cannot be taken away. As human beings, at the end of the day, we are social creatures. So that need for human connect will always be there. If nothing, last 2 years of pandemic have told us, whilst we will survive, right, but we will not thrive if you're not meeting those whom we want to meet.
I can't agree more with you on this, because I run a program called 200 Coffees, which is purely in-person meeting with people. So I understand and completely resonate with you. Bhavna, I must thank you for your time and speaking to us so candidly about your thoughts on women leadership, as well as what you are doing at Sensodyne. Like you said, oral health needs to be part of overall health. And I'm glad to know the initiatives that Sensodyne is doing to reach out to the dentists, and through them, reaching out to people to create awareness as well as better society with better smiles. And I'm sure your company picked you up because of this wonderful smile that you have. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Arvind. The absolute pleasure was mine. Thank you.